Welcome to the Executive Hustle podcast, where I am your host, Kirsten, speaker, author, retired CEO, mother of four, and recovering workaholic. Explore with Central Pennsylvania local executives what it takes to lead well, live well, and learn well. Understanding that leaders cannot survive, let alone thrive, without a spirit of curiosity, a discipline of accountability, and a disposition for vulnerability. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Executive Hustle podcast. Today, we are joined by Troy Peters, President and CEO of Jonestown Bank and Trust Company, a financial institution with a remarkable 150-year legacy in Central Pennsylvania. With over 19 years at JBT, 13 in his current leadership role, Troy has guided the bank through significant transformations and maintaining a deep commitment to his community roots. Prior to JBT, Troy held leadership positions at PNC Bank, Mellon Bank, and the Pennsylvania Association for Community Bankers. Outside of work, Troy coaches baseball. We'll see the field later today, and is retired from competing in triathlons. Welcome to the podcast, Troy.
Oh, thank you, Kirsten. Great to be here.
So happy to have you. Looking forward to this conversation. Tell me, Troy, did the 7-year-old you think you'd spend almost 2 decades in banking?
The 7-year-old wanted to be a Major League Baseball player, so he wasn't thinking about banking at that point. But so I'd say no, did not realize that.
Yeah. What kind of made the transition? How do you feel like you got here?
Well, I often tell people I started as a summer floating teller, replacing
Mm-hmm.
the tellers that were on vacation. But really, it probably goes back prior to that. My grandparents owned a couple of businesses, including a couple of laundromats. And I would, as a youngster, fill their vending machines, count their coins, count their dollars, and take them to the bank. And
Oh, yeah.
I just thought going into the bank, I didn't know what those people were doing, but it looked important. And, it always kind of intrigued me.
Yeah. So you had this image and you saw yourself in it.
Yeah, that, people spoke in hushed tones and dressed well, and there was marble everywhere. And kind of that bank in the downtown that many of us had growing up. And I was
Mm-hmm.
just impressed by it.
Yeah. So your first job was a summer intern?
Yes.
Mhm.
So between semesters of college over the summer, I joined a community bank and worked as a floating teller. And then they hired me upon graduation a couple years later. So that's
Yeah.
that's really where it started.
Yeah. And you started at some big banks and now you're at JBT, which is a community bank, but one with a really long history.
Yeah, right. There's not many companies in the country really that have been around for a century and a half.
Yeah.
This is our 152nd year. Always as an independent community bank. We're the only one headquartered in Lebanon County.
Mm.
There was once 15 to 20, and it's a pretty unique situation.
Yeah. What do you attribute to the longevity for this bank?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, you need to remain relevant.
Mm-hmm.
Your business needs to change as the community changes, as the needs change, as the products and services change. You need to keep up with that, if not stay ahead. And of course, you need to have ownership that is dedicated to independence. And, our shareholders have been
Mm-hmm.
since, 1873, and we work hard to perform for them so that we remain independent.
Yeah. Would you say that's the legacy, the independent piece?
That's a big part. Yeah. I mean,
Mm.
we're that old, but we're working to reinvent this every single day. So, the idea of making long-term decisions is something that's important to us. We don't have to hit numbers quarter to quarter like a
Mhm.
large institution would feel pressure to. We can make what we think is the right choice for the long term.
Yeah. And how does that filter down into an everyday interaction with your workforce? That type of mentality, because it does seem different.
Yeah, I think many of us worked elsewhere, and
Hmm.
those of us that worked in the large mega corporate environment really appreciate this culture. And we live in the community where we work, so we see our clients at the grocery store, at church, at the baseball game. So it's personal to us, and we take a lot of pride in performing well and treating our clients well. And I think that just makes the employees appreciate the special thing we have going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm sure it's more of a relaxed feel for the staff, for yourself. High
Definitely,
pressure.
yeah.
Yeah.
That's, there's still a pressure,
Mm-hmm.
but it's a positive one. It's not about producing widgets. It's about, building relationships, and
Right.
that's what we're really about.
Yeah. And those relationships are long term in a situation like this.
Right.
We're focusing on that. I was reading materials about JBT, and one of the things that I really found interesting was your tagline that you've uh, come up with over the last couple of years in the bank on a smile. And then you tell your story of, oh, I'm interested in banking. They're very serious. They're in hushed tones, right? They're behind the counter. They're dressed well. Very juxtaposition, I think, in terms of, oh, we're banking on a smile. This is a maybe counter to that serious and formal approach to the larger institutions. Excuse me. Walk me through how you guys got there and how that's so important to you.
Sure. Well, when I came here, it was not as president and CEO, but I had a number of responsibilities, including marketing. And one of the first questions I asked in one of the first marketing meetings we had was, when was the last time we looked at our logo?
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, we had various versions out there on various signs. We had clients calling us by all kinds of different versions of our full name.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I just wanted something more consistent. So we came up with the current logo and supported it with this Bank on a Smile tagline that really was born out of surveying our clients and what they thought we were, and asking our employees what we wanted to be for our clients. And it really came down to, we wanted to make people happy and help them fulfill the mission of their financial lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I initially wanted Bank Happy. That was my
Mm-hmm.
idea, but that was being used elsewhere. And so we came up with Bank on a Smile, thinking that that would have a, relatively short lifespan, as most taglines do, maybe
Yeah.
5 to 7 years. But what it has become is really representative of our culture. And the culture has just been built around that
Mm-hmm.
in a very honest, organic type of way. So it's more than a tagline for us. It does represent who we are
Mm-hmm.
for each other.
And you've even created your uh, core values around the word smile. Is that
Right.
right?
So yeah, we had brought all of our employees together in various groups over time
Mm-hmm.
and asked them, what would describe us, what's important to us, who do we want to be, and from that, many hundreds of positions of feedback, we boiled that down to an acronym of SMILE.
Yeah.
So it stands for sincere, memorable, integrity, leadership, and expertise. And we that really illustrates what our core values are here.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, again, we build everything around that. And the fact that our employees came up with that, not senior management, not the board,
Right.
not some consultant, is
Yep.
what really has made that lasting.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always fascinated by the process that companies use to come up with their core values because I think there's some, like you just alluded to, where it's top down. And I don't see those lasting as long as the processes when they're used that include the members of different divisions and different tiers and just all walks of life in the organization coming together to say, who are we? What
Right.
makes us special?
Yeah, and it's very much a living thing for us. I mean, every company has a mission statement. Maybe they have values posted somewhere, but
Mhm.
we measure ourselves on ours. They're in our reviews. We do reward and recognition based around them. Um, a lot of programs that support that and keep that alive. And every single one of the 160 people that work here would be able to tell you what those are and why they're important.
Mm-hmm. That's really that's really excellent work because too often they are just on the wall, right? I was
Right.
just working with a CEO and he was looking at his values and thinking, oh, I think we just need to change how they're defined. And a couple of them I pointed out, like these really are only external, right? They're only facing the clients. How do you use this term if it was reputation or integrity or something like that? How do you use that internally with your employees? And so it's a real light bulb moment in terms of, oh, these have to work inside, not just how we treat our customers and our clients.
Right.
And it sounds like yours is very internally focused.
Yeah, in fact, we really don't talk to our clients about that, about Smile standards or any of this. That's really all internal.
Mhm. Yeah. And you have a Smile Award, right?
Yeah, we have an event every year. The biggest award there is the Smiley of the Year. We do other award. The SMODI is what that's abbreviated as.
Okay.
Do other awards where employees can recognize other employees for demonstrating one of those standards.
Okay.
So, and then there's some
Love
internal
that.
recognition that goes with that, and so yeah, it's very much something that is who we are. It's part of our culture and DNA for sure.
Yeah, I love the peer-to-peer recognition based on the values. That must really reinforce them for new people coming in. I mean, they have to just walk into an entirely new environment and just like they're getting walking onto Mars or something.
Right.
It's just
Yeah.
so embedded.
And when you know what you're looking for, you'll find it and you'll see it more
Yeah.
readily. So
Yeah.
when you see somebody being sincere or
Mhm.
dedicated to their expertise by taking on additional training and learning and all these things, it's nice. People like to be recognized, and it's nice to have others doing that.
Absolutely. A culture built on the positive reinforcement is going to take you much further than one based on fear. We see that too often. So you also use something I'm familiar with and used in a former life as well, which is the four disciplines of execution. So, really setting your goal, measuring your goal, uh, visualizing the goal, on some type of scoreboard and those kinds of things. So you have what they call a wildly important goal, a WIG. And is it still currently inspiring confidence or is it updated?
Yes,
Yeah.
it
Okay.
is. Yeah. So a number of years ago, a board member gave me the book, The Four Disciplines of Execution, and after I read it, I thought, I've read a lot of business books,
Yeah.
and I thought, this is one of the best ones I've ever read
Yeah. It's
because
pretty good.
it's very simple, um, but it's very effective.
Mhm.
So we would have wildly important goals, one or two very important goals, because especially in our business, there's innumerable measurements that you
Yes.
that
You
you
don't
can
lack
check
for
yourself
data.
on. No, do not lack for data. And we came up with a couple of good goals for the first couple of years, but I could never really get my mind around what I really wanted it to be. I knew what I wanted it to be, but I didn't know how to communicate it.
Hmm.
And it probably took me 2 years or so until I came up with the idea of what I really want is us to inspire confidence.
Hmm.
I want our customers to trust us. I want them to believe in us. I want them to come to us. I want our shareholders to be confident about this is a place to invest their money. I want our employees to be confident about what we're doing and what the bank and the company will support them in doing. I want our communities to look for us
Yeah.
in a way that's important. And frankly, I want our regulators to be confident about what we're doing because it's very important in our business. So this idea of inspiring confidence was born. I finally got it out in a way that it said what I wanted it to, and now that's been our number one goal for the past several years,
Hmm.
and I think it still conveys exactly the direction we want to go.
Yeah. So it, I love the process. I love how you asked, what do I really want? And then you actually took time to figure that out. And it was about multiple stakeholders involved in that. So again, I'm a process person and I really like thinking about the end in mind and then coming back to that. It's a little different than some wigs, certainly that I had or that I've seen in other places in its opaqueness, right? It's not, oh, we want, $2 billion under management or we want this or that, that's very, let's say measurable, right? So how do you turn that into your scoreboard? You've got to have some leading or some lagging measures around confidence. what is the translation process there? How do you make that real?
Yeah, there again, you could probably pick a number of points to measure on that. What we measure is what we call household growth.
Okay.
So that would be new business
Hmm.
and businesses and consumer relationships. So if we're doing the right things, we will be growing our business by adding more customers.
Yeah.
So that is what we measure and determine how well, we need to retain the clientele we have and build on that in a positive and profitable way. So household growth is our measurement,
Yeah. Okay. Great. I love that. But I like how you start with kind of the impact that you want to make.
right?
Yeah, I don't think many people start there.
Yeah. Now we started by having goals like you mentioned, let's
Yeah.
get a certain number here,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
in terms of whatever metric you want to pick.
Uh-huh.
But it never really was what I wanted, and inspiring confidence is.
And it's I don't know if you found this, but I did. Like if it's very numbers based at the wig level in terms of the rallying cry that we want to have people work towards and get excited about, just $2 billion under management or something like get people excited, right? Or just something like you have, we're inspiring confidence. Oh, what does that mean for me? That means I did X, Y, and Z right today, right? It feels a lot more relatable, which is something you mentioned earlier, being relevant. It seems more relevant to your everyday bank employee.
Right. And you can ask yourself after every interaction, did I inspire confidence in that letter, that email, that text, that chat, that phone
Right.
call, that video meeting, or, conversely, with how our facilities look, our
Mm-hmm.
facilities manager can, does the way this is landscaped inspire, does it look like this company cares and
Right.
knows what
Is
they're
this my
doing?
best work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
you're either building up or tearing down confidence in every interaction, and so it's something that yes, we have the household goal, but you can really ask yourself
Mm-hmm.
all day long,
Mm-hmm.
are you working towards being inspiring confidence?
Yeah. How did you contribute to it with your individual actions? I love that. So you didn't spend your entire career here at JBT. You've been other places, a lot bigger places. Are there some leadership lessons that you both brought with you from those bigger institutions and some that you left behind?
Yes, definitely. Started at a community bank right out of school, but then left for larger banks over the next, decade and a half. And I worked with a lot of smart people.
Hmm.
I learned a lot. I learned a lot about process. I learned a lot
Hmm.
about leadership. I learned about things I did not want to be,
Yes.
as well as things that I did. And I think that was, looking back, maybe it didn't need to be as long of a time as it was, but at the time I didn't know that. Uh, but I wouldn't, it's part of the story. It's part of how I'm here now.
Yeah.
And the past is perfect, as they say, so
Yep.
we're not going to change it. But yes, it was a good experience, and I think it makes me appreciate what we have even more.
Hmm. What's one particular practice you left behind you didn't bring with you deliberately?
Well, I'm all for accountability, but when you have multiple calls a day to tell your boss how your team's doing, it's not productive.
There you go.
So we certainly have goals that we measure and
Hmm.
things we want to produce, but I don't think we take it to an unhealthy level.
Yeah.
And I've certainly lived in that, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah. I think some of the best lessons in my past are the ones that I don't repeat, right?
Yeah, right.
The things I learned to not do again.
Sure.
They're some of the most impactful ones that I have. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about the history of the company, how old it is, how many, you know, generations it's been through, different crises that it's been through, and what are the lessons and how do you continue to be a resilient bank in terms of honoring the past, right? Dealing with where you stand right now in terms of the climate, the condition, the regulations, all the things that are happening now, and then looking towards the future.
Right. Yeah, it's a balance. Having that past behind you is great,
Hmm.
but what really matters is what you're doing today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you need to, in my case, I need to get outside of the four walls of my office. Um,
Mm.
I'm very involved in our industry and in a
Hmm.
number of trade groups at the state level, at the national level. And doing that allows me to, educate myself on things that are happening around the country, around the state, and ask myself, how does that apply to us?
Right.
And so that's what I see really at this point in my career is the real value I bring is probably when I'm not here.
Yeah.
And it's when I'm networking and learning outside of here. Because if we were to all to stay within our own box,
Hmm.
it's going to be very difficult to grow.
Yeah. So that's quite a challenge. So because the bank also prides itself on the community aspect and the being present, and we're always on premise and available, right? These are some things that I read. How Certainly for you, your role's a little different in terms of the bank management and the bank staffing. The stats right now, 30-50% of people are remote work or want some level of remote work. How does that jive in terms of how you want to run the bank, finding the right talent? What struggles do you face? What solutions have you found?
Well, finding the right people is, that's the most difficult part of the job for sure. And in our case, in our industry, if you look in Pennsylvania, the past 36 quarters, we've lost a bank in 29 of them. So it is a bit of an endangered species being a community bank. There's a number of reasons why that happens, but what happens is the talent pool that it's experienced, is shrinking
Hmm.
over time. So we do allow for some remote work. We have some fully remote employees. We have some hybrid employees.
Hmm.
The policy, though, is we are a work from work company.
Yeah.
So our first preference is that we're better off if you are here.
Right.
We understand we need to be flexible, but it is difficult finding the talent. Most of our employees have worked at a bank elsewhere.
Okay.
I do have one person on my senior team that's been here over 30 years that has only ever worked for JBT, but most of us,
Hmm.
have been elsewhere, and that's brought other experiences. And in terms of being in the community, we encourage all of our employees to volunteer. In fact, we give them time off to do that.
Hmm.
And last year we contributed over 400 days of community service from our
Wow.
employees. And there's some other things we do to incent that, and we have a committee that actually brings forward opportunities to employees if they don't know how to get involved or what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's built into to our culture and DNA as well. And we do highly encourage that because
Hmm.
again, we can only do as well as our community does, and
I
it's really
love that.
important.
We can only do as good as our community does. What would it be like if every business had that mentality?
Yeah, I think our industries, especially the community banking industry, is that's very, very important and very much of who we are um, as an industry. Now, maybe a bank headquartered in North Carolina is not viewing that the same or unable to, but for us, again, we see our clients when we're out, when we're not at work, and we want to be proud of who we are and what we're doing.
Hmm. It sort of gives you the always on mindset.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Uh, number of stories about that. And yeah, I'll be honest with you, I've worked for other banks that I wore their logo wear outside of work, and I was hoping nobody would come up and tell me about the problem.
Hmm.
Whereas wearing JBT apparel, overwhelmingly all I get is positive
Mm.
comments. And usually it's about who they work with at the bank. It's
Yeah.
not the bank, it's I work with Susan at XYZ branch and
Hmm.
she helped
Hmm.
me do this. And so it's very personal.
Mm. That must feel so good.
It does. Yeah, it's something that you and all of our employees can be proud of.
Mm-hmm. Mm. I drove by your first building probably a week and a half ago, headed out to a baseball game in Jonestown. Nice looking old building for the first location.
Yeah, well, we've been in three different spots in downtown Jonestown since 1873, but all within about a block.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you can see
So,
them all at the same
yeah,
time.
it's the current building was built in the 30s and added on to over
Hmm.
time.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So what does the next chapter look like? I mean, there are the rate of change in our society in terms of technology and people's interface with each other, with their institutions is just changing so fast. Where's JBT going? Where's the banking industry going? What's your crystal ball say?
Hey, there's how much time do you have, you know? I mean, certainly we operate in a couple of niches that we will continue to expand. That being commercial lending, low cost deposit gathering, indirect auto business. So when you go to a car dealership, we do the financing of those vehicles. So we do that throughout the state. And then we're the only bank in Pennsylvania that actively banks cannabis related businesses. So
Mm-hmm.
growers, processors, dispensaries, clinical registrants, testing facilities. And we do that not only in Pennsylvania, but surrounding states. And actually, we're taking that nationwide.
Okay.
So that is a,
That's a
that's a,
niche.
yeah, definitely a growing
Yeah.
niche for us for sure. Where's the industry going? I mean, one thing that's a bit concerning right now is the current administration's view on cryptocurrency
Mm-hmm.
and stable coins and to some degree central bank digital currency. So the way money's going to be transmitted and monetary policy implemented and through blockchain technology and so forth is a concern for sure for us for many reasons. One, we see a lot of fraud in that industry already.
Okay.
Uh, Two, if those deposits don't reside at the bank and on the balance sheet of the bank, then the bank can't lend that money. So
Right. Right.
every dollar that's not here is $10 I can't lend out.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to have your communities be able to grow and people to buy homes and finance cars and children's education, there needs to be a mechanism to do that. That's what we do very well for 150 years. And so to some degree, crypto space is a bit of a threat.
Mm. So it's not even just a threat to the banking industry, but the way you described it, it's a threat to how we live our lives, how we communicate, these transactions and the ability for people to do some of the normal, everyday American life activities.
Right. And yeah, it's not a far-fetched to say it's a national security concern as well,
Right.
because a lot of the money that they use the vehicle cryptocurrency goes to places that aren't necessarily
Hmm.
friends of the United States,
Right. Right.
organized crime. So it's difficult to police that when there's not many regulations around it, and that's a lot of what's being discussed right now. So definitely
Mm.
a current topic.
So is it possible that if too much money goes into cryptocurrencies, there's not enough money in the regular banking system, and then people can't, if I'm following what you're saying, people will have less ability to borrow money to buy a house, to buy a car.
Yeah, that's a very real concern. Yes,
Wow.
absolutely. And banks most likely aren't going to be able to hold cryptocurrency as collateral because the value is, well, it's frankly it's made up.
Right, right.
It's wildly volatile.
Volatile. Yeah.
So you don't know, what one Bitcoin is worth today, what it will be worth 2 days from now.
Hmm.
It's not very stable.
It seems fragile, and there seems to be ways to get into it, steal it, those kinds of things. I
Right,
read a lot of that.
right,
Well, then if you're holding something that you can't keep secure, would you really lend on it?
right. So I just think if we're going down this road, we need to be careful from a regulatory standpoint. Um,
Mhm.
how's the Federal Reserve going to affect monetary policy if they can't control money supply?
Right.
And, frankly, we have the greatest financial system in the world. And we have that because of the way it's set up and the way it's protected.
Right.
And I'm glad to be a part of that. I might, some of the regulations go a little bit too far, but we have consumer protections that others don't. We have insurance on our depositors' money that others don't, and it's something that works very well. So if we're going to expand this, we just need to do it carefully and at a measured pace.
Yeah. But the message is continue to support the local bank because they're going to be here when you need them.
No,
And
that's my view.
yeah, for sure. Well, you certainly have me convinced because those are some scary outcomes. You talk about too much money in one system and then it's not there. People already can't buy houses because they're too expensive. And then if they can't borrow any money,
Right,
we've got, where are we then?
right.
Wow.
Yeah. Community banks make 60% of the small business loans in the country. So
Mm.
although we're smaller in terms of market share than the mega banks, we are vitally important to Main Street.
Right. You're propping up, and small businesses are what keeps America going in terms of percentage of businesses, employees, employers.
Right.
So if you're 60% of keeping them going, that is not a small, insignificant piece.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Wow. Okay. So how about some rapid fire personal questions here?
Okay.
First, in your intro, you are a retired triathlete. Yes, did I say that right?
Yeah.
Because
Triathlete,
I'm
sure.
definitely not one.
Okay.
So tell me, how did you get into that? What did you learn from it? And when's the next one?
Well, how did I get into it? I'm definitely not a natural. Running was punishment for me in other sports growing up.
No kidding, yeah.
So I didn't necessarily enjoy that. I wouldn't drown if you threw me in a lake, but I wouldn't say I was a great swimmer. And of course, I rode bicycle, but I wasn't the strongest biker. But I coincidentally was laid off from my big bank job
Hmm.
through a corporate downsizing. Thousands of us, through no fault of our own, found ourselves without a job. And as I had 8 months to figure that out, I signed up for my first half marathon.
Wow.
And I did that, and I could walk afterwards, so I was happy about that. And I had a bike, I had a hybrid bike, like a trail bike, and I thought, what if I got a road bike? I wonder how fast I could ride my road bike.
Hmm.
And then I thought, well, what if I raced against somebody? I wonder if I could, be competitive. So it kind of started there, and triathlon is swim, bike, run. So
Okay.
there's different distances of that, and the basic one is a sprint tri.
Hmm.
And I did that at Mount Gretna, and I did it as part of the team. So one of us swam, one of us did the bike, and one of us
Oh,
ran.
yeah. Okay.
And we came in third place in our in our
Wow.
in our in our category. So I had some early success. So that encouraged me. And then it pretty much went from there. And I did 50 races over the next 13 years, up to and including Ironman distance, which is 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike, and 26.2 or marathon run. So 140.6 miles.
Hmm.
You have to do that under 17 hours. That's the hard cutoff. And I certainly wasn't winning any medals doing that, but I was able to do it. And
Yeah. About the cutoff.
then then over time, it became very difficult on the body. So it was a lot of
No.
training. Yeah. And it got to the point where I had to go out and run 10 miles today instead of I get to go out and run
Yeah,
10
yeah, yeah,
miles.
yeah, yeah. I hear it.
So that was a phase of life that was very important. I learned a lot. I learned a lot of leadership lessons
Mm.
by doing that. You know, the first one was you have to see yourself where you want to be, even though you're not there yet.
Yes.
So
Amen.
I began thinking of myself as a triathlete.
Mm-hmm.
I thought of myself that 24/7, and including how I trained and what I ate and that sort of thing. And I also learned it was helpful to hang around people that had the same interest as me,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and people that could support me and kind of sharpen my skills and give me advice. And my wife was a big part of that, being supportive of the things I did and the time I spent doing it. Um, and then, of course, you need to have a plan. And you had to, and I would plan out my entire year so I could tell you the
Hmm.
day after Christmas what my workout was going to be on Labor Day of the following year because I
Oh,
took it to that level.
wow.
And then you need to execute that plan. I mean, having the plan is one thing, but you got to execute. And then you need to trust that training is going
Trust
to
the
get you
process.
where you want to go. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also learned patience because the 25-year-old Troy wouldn't have been able to, I would have tried to run through a wall.
Mm.
The 45-year-old Troy knew that you needed to have some patience. You needed to sometimes focus on just small goals that were right in front of you.
Hmm.
There were times on a run where I couldn't think 10 miles ahead. I could only think to running to that next telephone pole.
Mm.
And then I would pick the next one. And I always figured as long as I'm not going backwards, I'm getting closer to my goal.
Yeah.
So even though this hurts and I don't feel good, I might feel differently in 3 feet, 3 minutes, 3 hours, but things will change. The situation won't be like this forever.
Yeah.
And it will end.
Yeah.
It'll end one way or another. So, um, all things I learned, I also learned that when I would pick out somebody ahead of me and target them as my goal to catch them.
Mm.
And I used to think, that should be your motivation. Tracking down your prey like that should be what motivates you. And it did. But honestly, what motivated me more was putting time on them once I got by them. So I
Mm-hmm.
viewed that as punishing them. So it was pray and punish. And I got more enjoyment out of seeing how far ahead of I could get. Now, of course, I'd pick another person and I'd just keep
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
it.
Keep going. Leapfrog.
But yeah, so I don't know if that's what that says about me or if that's good or bad, but I like putting time on other people.
I think it says, regardless of the situation, I will figure out what motivates me so that I get the job done. That's
Yeah,
what I heard. I
yeah.
love it. I
So
love
it's
it. Ah,
plus you have a lot of time to yourself to think. If you
mm.
spend 8 hours on a Saturday riding your bike, you can figure out a lot of things during that time.
Boy, quiet time is just so underrated.
Yeah,
Yeah. The best leaders I know, one, have had some level of physical or sport related activity, like you're suggesting. And two, they value quiet time. They
yeah.
understand what that window time means to them and what they get out of it, and they don't sacrifice it.
And those of us that are introverts, as I am, that's how we recharge. We
Sure.
recharge our batteries when we're alone
Mm.
and quiet. And I know that about myself, and I make sure I can put myself in those situations. You know, you, you need to be around people and do things that you do, but that can wear you out.
Yeah. All right, two more. Success is a lousy teacher. What is one failure in your past that taught you something of great value?
Well, I'm sure I could have been kinder to some people on the way through. Um, you know, when I teach some classes, I would talk about or use Bobby Knight as a basketball coach as an example. I'd show videos of him and how he'd be talking to his players, and Bobby Knight can't coach kindergartners that way.
Hmm.
So when the dedication or the skill level or maturity's not there, you need to meet people where they are and not necessarily where you are.
Yeah,
Uh, so you wouldn't scream at a kindergartner on the basketball court, but a motivated Division I scholarship athlete, yeah, you, you,
right.
you you do that and he's effective. So, understanding that one, it may not be important to others as it is to you, and you have no idea what they might be dealing with outside of the workplace
Hmm.
because that can be hidden very well. And just being cognizant of that, I was probably taking things too seriously along the way, and I
Okay.
probably should have chilled out a bit.
All right. Fair. What's something that people can't Google about you?
Cannot Google about me.
Hmm.
Wow. I never tried to do that. I don't know.
Oh, don't do it quick while we're
Yeah.
recording.
Hey, I'm an avid motorcyclist.
Mm,
I travel
nice.
nationally and internationally. I kind of have a loose goal of getting to every state and a number of countries. I don't know that that's going to show up anywhere, but that's how I like to spend my time. I have a European trip this year and
Nice.
going to the Upper Peninsula next month. And
That's some quiet time too. So you've just replaced bicycling with biking.
well, I do it with friends, but yes, when you're on the bike, you're alone
Yeah, it's quiet
for
time.
long periods of time. Yet you still have that camaraderie when you stop and at night.
Yeah, love it. That's great. This has been really, really great, Troy. I have enjoyed this conversation so much. Couple takeaways. Really right here at the end is one of the biggest ones I'm getting is see yourself at the finish line when you're starting. And something that I really have taken to heart over the last couple of years is this as if thinking. You said I had to think of myself as if I was a triathlete, right? Before you were that. And I think that really can go a long way for people. As if thinking is so valuable. A lot of good culture stuff from, figuring out the tagline, how that means, what that means internally for people, and that the culture, the process of figuring out your core values for your culture, so strong in terms of, asking the employees, which is the same process I used maybe a decade ago, which is like, who are we? If we put our best employee on the table, how would we describe that employee? How would we clone that person, right? How would we describe them? Who are we? And I just love that process. And I think it's one that people will take away. Uh, being eyes open to the landscape and what is coming around the corner. You really opened my eyes to the challenges with the cryptocurrency and the banking and the real importance that we need to place on our community businesses, our community banks. And I love what you said. We can only do as good as our community does. And that's, really part of why I do this podcast, right? Like leadership is best done in community with others. And we're sharing your stories, your challenges for the sake of the other leaders, right? That they will pick up something here and do good in their community. So just to highlight that. I love that. Thank you so much for joining me today and putting up with all my questions.
Yeah, my pleasure. It was fun. Thank you very much.
If people want to know more about you personally or JBT, how can they find you?
Well, you certainly can go to our website, jbt.bank. I can be contacted through that website. Of course, we're on social media as well, LinkedIn, Facebook, and others.
Awesome. And I'll have all that in the show notes. All right, Troy, thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me today for another great hustle conversation with the Central PA executive. You can find out more about my guest in the show notes. And if you liked the episode or have something to add to our conversation, please find me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Subscribe, rate, and review. Remember, leadership is best practiced in community. You know a leader who needs to hear something from this episode, so pay it forward and send it to them today. Don't wait. Until next time, the best leaders not only lead well, they live well and learn well. Bye now.